to this event to celebrate the release of Ali Lowe's third novel, The School Run. I'm Vanessa McCausland, the author of 4 contemporary fiction novels and a good friend of Ali's, and I'm so honoured that I've had the privilege of interviewing Ali for every one of her amazing books. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather and their ancestors, past, present and emerging. Ali's been a journalist for 20 years. She's written for magazines, newspapers and websites in London and Australia, where she moved 19 years ago.
It's always different in every bio.
Yeah. On a trip that was meant to last a year, and I might say which has inspired the settings of 3 of her books. She burst onto the literary scene in 2022 with the sexy, twisty The Trivia Night. It was a bestseller and was optioned for TV. She followed this up with the breakneck thriller The Running Club, and now she tackles something that every mother knows intimately in The School Run, the intense rivalry that can rear up between parents. So tell us what the story is about in a nutshell.
So The School Run is set in a community that's not unlike a community in the Northern Beaches, like my other books. And it focuses around 3 women who are desperate to get their boys into an elite private school. So there's Estella, Beck and Kaya, and they all want their boys to go to St Ignatius Boys Grammar, and they will do anything to get their sons in, basically, and that involves murder. So in the prologue of the book, someone who isn't identified at that stage is hit by a car, and as the story unfolds, you realise why each of these women wants to get rid of this person and why they hinder their chances of getting their boys into the school.
So it was inspired by a conversation with friends about the school admissions process.
It was.
And it can be really hard to get your kids into a private school on the Northern Beaches. We've both had experience of this. What attracted you to the cutthroat world of private schools?
Well, I needed it to be a competitive environment for all these women to want to get their kids into the school. And if they were just going to a local school, they would be in the catchment area, they would get in straight away. There would be no need for a gala day, which is what happens in my book. There's a gala day where boys sit and interview and take part in races to secure their places. So it had to be a private environment, basically, just to up the stakes and make the drama a bit more intense and the competition more intense between women.
And the idea of the gala day, is that based on anything particular?
No, it's completely made up, and I'm sure it would never happen in any school. There would never be a kind of gala day where you had to play a rugby match or, sit and interview, yes, but not play a rugby match and be judged on your skills on the field. So it's completely a figment of my imagination, but I just wanted something that would really, like I said, up the stakes and get these women really competitive. And there's nothing as competitive as a mother getting Taylor Swift tickets, or a mother watching their child on the sidelines of a soccer match. So I just thought that was quite a good way of showing just how cutthroat these women were.
And might I say that Ali managed to get Taylor Swift tickets at the day before?
It was
2 days before?
48 hours before, yeah.
It was motherhood dedication.
Yeah,
like
remember that, Sammy?
no one has ever seen. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Did you draw on your experience at school? Because you went to a private Catholic school, is that right?
Yeah, so I went to a convent called St Mary's Convent in Cambridge in the UK, which was a very kind of strict Catholic school. So in terms of having experience being in Catholic school, I was able to put that on paper, but obviously times have changed since I was at school, which is a long time ago. But yeah, I did draw on that, and I in the book focuses a lot around sort of ancient history and Latin. There's a few Latin phrases, one of which is very pivotal to the plot. And I did study Latin at my private school in Cambridge and did it for GCSE, and so there are lots of things that kind of filter in from my past.
Can you tell us a Latin phrase?
Oh God, I can't remember
You told
much.
me in the car.
Well, I can't remember what I told you. Servus est in horto, which means the slave is in the garden. Canis est in horto, the dog is in the garden.
In vino veritas, is that right?
Yeah.
The truth is in the wine.
Yeah, the truth in the wine.
That's
Yeah. I think that might have made it into the book. I don't know. There's a lot of Google translating. because I just didn't remember anything. But yeah, definitely inspired by my school days.
And I
Going on to the
remember because Ali wrote this, I think, was it during COVID? Or you came up with the idea during COVID?
Shortly after, yeah.
We were doing a long walk and we were talking about the Felicity Huffman school scandal in the US.
Yeah.
Where, was that sort of a bit of a spark as well?
Yeah.
We were just talking about how crazy it was that they did all these weird things to get there.
Yeah, so like doctored photos and stuff. So there was a rowing pic that I think one of the women had their daughter sit on a rowing machine, and then that picture was submitted with the application. So that was quite inspiring. But I guess what really inspired me was that my son was at that point, and then my daughter shortly after was in year 5, and we were looking at places for high school, and the chatter in the playground was, where are you sending so and so, and what school so and so going to? And there's one school which some of you may know on the beaches, which is quite a popular boys' school, quite hard to get into, and I had friends who or knew of people who had baptised their sort of 8-year-old kids to get them a place at this Catholic school. It's not unheard of. And I knew of someone else through a friend of a friend who had baked a cake for the admissions team at this particular school, a massive cake, taken it in, presented it, and her 2 boys had got places. I'm not suggesting it's because of the cake, but when I was coming up with characters, that just stuck with me, and I really wanted to have a character who was a baker, who literally didn't have much to offer the admissions team apart from the fact that she had this amazing talent. She could cook incredible cakes. So that became Beck, and Beck was created a massive masterpiece of the school chapel, which she takes in and gives to the principal.
It was actually my friend.
Yeah, it was. I didn't want to land you in it, so it's a friend of a friend, but yes, it's Vanessa's friend.
Yes, it was very advantageous for her, I think.
Yeah.
You baked the cupcakes tonight. Did you know a lot about baking going in? Are you a good baker?
Well, I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram, but I did put a picture up today of my daughter Savannah's horse cake that I made her. She produced a picture of a horse cake that she really wanted, and I thought, I can do that, so easy. And so I made it, and it was so terrible.
Wow.
It was so
quite
bad.
admirable.
And everyone's been so sweet in the comments. They've kind of said, "Oh, it's not too bad. It's really good." And then a couple of my really good friends have gone, "Yeah, stick to writing." But yeah, so I do like to bake, but I did have to do a lot of research for like the tools that Beck used and what Beck had in her pantry, and how long you're supposed to bake things and how many eggs go into things, and because I'm guilty of using a lot of packet mixes, so yeah, and Beck starts from scratch, of course.
I'm going to quote from the book. Estella has her flaws, by God does she, but at the forefront of everything she does are her children, a lioness whose love knows no bounds and who will stop at nothing to protect her young. Tell me about this instinct, because it's really at the heart of the novel, mothers and their relationships with their children.
Well, I'm a mum of 3, and you do, well, any mother knows that you will do anything for your kids, and it brings out the competitive in you, and I wouldn't say I'm a competitive person, really, maybe sometimes, and maybe with my husband sometimes, but yeah, I think there's something about your children. When I'm watching my kids on the sporting field, that side comes out, and I wanted to show that because it's so instinctive in all parents, and I just really wanted to bring it out in this book. I just think it's a really interesting concept, and I've stood on sidelines many a time, and where friends have said to me, "Oh my God, you have to do something about soccer sidelines or competitive parents," and it's just really interesting. It's just, I don't know, kind of part of human nature that's the lioness thing that's very interesting.
My daughter's in netball, and the netball mums are scary. They're really scary. Maybe that's a book idea.
Yeah. The netball mums.
The netball mums, yeah. You like to look beneath the sort of social veneer in your books. It's a theme in all of them, the wealthy, perfect communities. What draws you to these, and why do you enjoy peeling the veneer back so much?
I think I just really like the idea of, you know, there being something beneath the surface or something that's so perfect that everything that's perfect has its flaws. And not everything that's perfect has its flaws, but, you know, I just really like the idea of unpicking these sort of, you know, these picture perfect women who sort of totter around looking amazing and hide their flaws. It's really nice to kind of see the unraveling underneath, you know, in fiction, I mean, not in real life. I'd like to see people unravel. But yeah, it's just fun. It's fun. I really like writing these characters, and especially characters like Estella, Estella's one of the mums who has a really kind of crazy relationship with her daughter. They're always arguing. Felicity's 15 and is just always teasing her mum about going through the menopause, and, you know, Estella's always teasing Felicity about her hormones, and I just really love this kind of battle and this really kind of caustic side to this woman, and the way she argues with her children. It's just really fun. It's
And
really
didn't
fun
you
to write.
realise at some point that all your bitchy characters are Ellas? As in Estella,
Who else have I got? I've got the next book. I've got Luella.
Luella.
Who was the other one? I can't remember. I can never remember anything.
Yeah, there was another one, another something Ella. And they're all the nasty but interesting.
Oh yeah.
So you're sort of, you're kind of known for your signature is the unlikable sort of character that is also very compelling. As a writer, it's really difficult to walk that tightrope because creating a really unlikable character can be quite risky because you can alienate the reader. How do you actually like navigate that tightrope?
Well, I don't think I did it very well to start with, and that was something that came back in my edits for the trivia night, was that, you know, I had Carol, who was Carol was the running club. See, I never remember. Okay, so whoever it was in the trivia night, my edits came back to me saying, you need to make some of these people more likable. You need to just maybe give them some kind of redeeming feature, or some kind of flaw, or something in their past that makes people kind of think, well, even though you're a complete cow, basically, you know, you are redeemable, and maybe there's something inside that I quite like about this person. So I was really aware of that when I was writing Estella, particularly because Beck's quite likeable, Kaya's quite likeable, but Estella's the kind of waspish one, and I just had to be really careful to, you know, Estella has a really complex past, and it is a really tragic past, and I think as that unfurls, as the book progresses, you kind of realise that actually maybe there's a reason why she's so horrendous to everyone, and I did try and drop bits of that in throughout before we knew about her past, just so people would go, oh god, she's awful. And I think sometimes I do that through trying to make her funny, so some of the dialogue she has is, you know, quite snippy and fun to write. So even though you might think, oh, she's awful, she's almost a bit shockingly awful because she's, you know, it's a bit of comedy dialogue.
Yeah, it's that caustic humour that allows her to get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
And I
do
really
it
like
through
that.
humour a lot of the time.
And I do really enjoy that.
Yeah.
That kind of banter between characters.
Yeah, it's very good. How did you come up with their schemes? So Beck, Estella and Kaya all have schemes, are scheming how to get their kids into this school.
Yeah. Well, so Beck was thanks to you, so thank you for that. The cake, I just loved that. And Kaya, I don't know where that came from. Kaya is basically desperate to get her son Ollie into the school because her husband passed away, and on his deathbed he asked her to get Ollie into the school because he was an old boy and he just really wanted their son to experience the same thing he had, the same education. But as you go through the book, obviously nothing's as simple as you think it, you know, it is, and the reasons why Kaya wants Ollie in the school run a lot deeper than that. Estella, it's a bit of a spoiler to say what Stella does, but she has twins, and let's just say that they're identical, so there's a lot of kind of comedy of errors type behaviour, and things get a bit switched around. So all people get switched around, maybe.
Yeah.
I think I can say.
So do you, in your research, did you come across anything that you just thought that's too outrageous for a parent to actually do in terms of getting their kids into a school? Did you do research?
I researched the American scandal.
Okay.
But
That
the
was
rest
pretty
of it
outrageous
was, yeah,
in
it
some
was,
ways,
with
wasn't
the
it?
faking of photos and
Yeah.
stuff, and hiring of kind of coaches to
Yeah.
get your kids across the line.
Yeah.
But no, everything else was kind of figment of my imagination, and I just wanted to make them really, really outrageous, more outrageous than anything I'd heard of. I mean, obviously, having your child baptised is quite outrageous at the age of 8 to get a place, but I wanted it to be crazier than that, worth someone killing for. And I have not experienced anyone who's quite prepared to go that far yet on the northern beaches, but that's not to say I won't. Hopefully not.
Speaking of sort of, the whole baptism thing, Catholicism plays quite an important role in the book. Was religion a theme that you wanted to sort of explore in some ways?
Not excessively, but I think, maybe not consciously, but maybe it was just something that, because I grew up in quite a religious family and I went to a Catholic school, I think it's just something that's of interest to me somewhere, you know, and I think it's just something that kind of came out in the writing.
Yeah, it's funny how that can happen, isn't it? And you're like, oh, I wonder how that got there.
But it wasn't a kind of conscious, I'm going to make a commentary on religion or make a judgment on people doing certain things to get their kids into school or anything like that. It was just purely a kind of choice by virtue of entertainment and probably what's in the back of my head and what I've known in my own schooling.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I was at Catholic girls' school for 6 years, and so that's all I know in terms of high school.
What is the most extreme thing you've ever done for the sake of research?
So a lot of my books are kind of from my imagination. I certainly didn't go to any weird swinging clubs or anything when I was researching the trivia night, and I definitely didn't go running to research the running club, because I'm not a runner. But for the next book, I did a bit of research. So the next book is set on an island, and I went to that island and I did
hard research.
It was really tough research. I was in a really nice resort. I went on a nature walk. It was in Fiji, and I went on a nature walk and basically checked out all the local wildlife, and I had a guide, and we went around and we were looking at all the medicinal properties of plants, and what they do, and what all the buildings, the bures are made from, and it was really interesting. And I was with this really quite serious group of holidaymakers who were kind of taking it all in and asking very serious questions. And then there's me standing underneath a coconut tree saying, if that fell down from that height, would I die? And the woman was like, why are you even asking me that? But yeah, honestly, I'm writing a book. I'm not trying to kill anyone or get myself killed. But yeah, so that was probably the most extreme research I've done so far. But it wasn't a hardship.
Do you think that going on holidays might be research for future books?
Possibly, Vanessa. Yeah, possibly. I do like the idea of writing. So the next one is a destination thriller, and I really do like the idea of writing more books that are set away from the beaches, but also have the same people, like the same kind of groups of people. I love the people that I write about, basically, and I love my beachy surrounds. So maybe a destination thriller with a beachy surround might be my next one.
Why do you like the water, and why is that? I mean, if you look at the covers of your books, what do you think the appeal is of that and the northern beaches?
The northern beaches, like I said, because I think it's just, you can scratch away at the surface, and we do live in such the Insular Peninsula. It's such a perfect place, and coming from Cambridge, which is also a really nice place, but living in London, you do realise how beautiful and serene this place is, and how safe and how devoid of crime relatively it is. And I just love that kind of scratching beneath the surface of perfection to find out what's underneath. But in terms of the sea, I just love the setting. I think having a beach and an ocean, a vast ocean, is quite dangerous. There's potential for danger and adventure and intrigue in the water, and I don't know. All of my books do have at least one beachy scene in them.
And even the 2 books that she's written, the next 2 books, they're both
watery books.
There's
Yeah.
something in that.
Mhm.
So this story